Few cameras can deliver on their promise of full 4K non-interpolated video capture, let alone promise digital image stabilisation at full 4K too, yet the Eken V8s seemingly offers just that, and best of all, it's at a budget level $120 price point too. The budget camera market is bursting at its seams, yet the Eken V8s is one of the first that's offering not only true 4K capture with no interpolation, but also image stabilisation to go with it, and that's something we don't even get in the GoPro Hero 5, yet it costs a fraction of the price at only $120. And at that price point you get a pretty decent package too. Alongside the camera are various mounting accessories, including a frame mount to complement the waterproof housing the camera is already supplied in, along with a small array of mounting hardware. Even a mini tripod and wireless remote, which we don't often see included with other cameras, especially in the budget market. Nevertheless, the camera itself comes complete within a waterproof housing, good for up to 30 meters of diving. Compatible with the GoPro mounting ecosystem, complete with the typical button arrangement, and a clasp up the top for opening the unit, there's nothing we haven't really seen done before. The V8s itself carries the typical design that's become the norm with most action cameras on the market, with its boxy look and feel, although it does look rather attractive. It carries a predominantly plastic construction, although at 61 grams it still feels nice and robust in the hand. Alongside some rather bold branding sits the camera's lens, capable of shooting 14 megapixel images and up to 4K video capture thanks to a Panasonic MN34110 image sensor fed by an Ambarella A12S75 chipset. It's a nice wide 170 degree lens too, we'll see how that fares later. Otherwise we have a pretty typical action camera setup with the 3 button arrangement for shutter, mode and Wi-Fi controls, which all feel robust with a tactile click when pressed. On the opposite side are the micro USB, HDMI and memory card slots, all open with no plastic doors or port covers to fumble about with. Bear in mind you'll need a branded micro SD card to keep up with that high data transfer rate. There are a few recommendations stated in the manual, but any U3 or higher card should be just fine. Nevertheless, a door on the bottom of the unit reveals a cavity for the included 1050 mAh battery, supposedly lasting for around 50 minutes of usage from a single full charge, shooting at full 4K of course. Naturally, expect even less with wireless switched on. That may not sound like much, but it's pretty much the norm with high-powered action cameras. On the rear is a nice large 2-inch display carrying a 320 by 240 pixel resolution, and with the camera switched on, it provides a live view along with other useful data around the edges. The screen itself is rather bright and easy to use even under daylight, so there's no issues there. For a budget unit, it's actually rather impressive. Around the front we find another small 0.95 inch screen with some useful status information. This is a step up from most other action cameras since it's easily viewable, even under low light, unlike the GoPro. It really does give the unit a more premium feel, although note that it does always remain on and will not switch off like the rear screen after a predetermined period. When it comes to using the camera, all the standard modes are available, including the standard video and photo, as well as burst and time-lapse modes, and switching between each is a simple procedure using the mode button. The front screen makes it easy to see basic information on the active mode too, making the unit feel more premium than it is. When it comes to changing settings, just like previous Eken cameras, the single layer menu system is rather basic and very easy to navigate and use. Although the large on-screen buttons make it seem as though you can press them, the display is not touch sensitive, but scrolling down menus is easy with the mode button. Using the shutter button to select and change options, it soon becomes second nature. A few things to note though, there are only 4 video resolutions to choose from: 4K at 25 frames per second, 2.7K at 30, and 1080p at both 60 and 30. That's pretty much it. With photo resolutions it's just the 14 megapixel, nothing more. Otherwise, all other settings are pretty self-explanatory, with some advanced settings like exposure being available. Burst mode makes an appearance at 3 photos per second, ranging to 30 photos in 8 seconds, so not so brilliant, but it's there regardless. Nevertheless, after several time-lapse options are some general camera settings, and that's pretty much it. A pretty simple menu system that's well structured and simple to use. Back at the main screen, a quick tap of the side button activates wireless, with the front display clearly showing its active status. Note that there are no other LEDs on the unit at all, just the front and rear displays, so there's no other easy to see blinking light indicating Wi-Fi activity or recording status. Even so, using the Easy iCam app freely available on the iOS and Android platforms, it is rather stable. The camera connects fine and I had no random disconnection issues. The live stream is also pretty good and surprisingly there's very little lag at all, almost instantaneous. Nevertheless, when it comes to settings, there's really not much available. We can cycle between video and photo modes, but otherwise there's very little in the way of any settings that we can change other than basic resolution options. It's all rather restrictive, so not much use other than for framing of shots and starting or stopping capture. Also note that when Wi-Fi is active, you can't change settings or do anything for that matter on the camera itself. So you'd need to set the camera up with the desired options before enabling Wi-Fi. So think of the app as more a remote with live stream more than anything else. And talking of remotes, on the plus side, the remote control that comes with the camera works very well and is very responsive, making it a very useful accessory, with one button shooting still images and the second starting and stopping video capture. One thing to mention straight away is the camera does get rather warm while in use, even in standby just navigating menus and changing some settings, although there is a note on the rear sticker warning us of this, so not something that's out of the ordinary it seems. Albeit when it came to video quality I was left a little underwhelmed. The camera prides itself on its 4K resolution, although this is at 25 frames per second only, and it's one of the few cameras with electronic image stabilization at 4K. And don't get me wrong, that is what you get and it does work rather well. But the image stabilization is always on, no matter which video resolution you choose. There's no way to actually turn it off, which is a concern since there are some instances where you may not want such a feature enabled. Nevertheless, looking at quality for a budget level camera, it's not all too bad. What you get is footage that has decent levels of sharpness, certainly not the best I've seen, but pretty much in line with other cameras at this price point. Smoothness seems okay and the colours are quite good. Maybe a little oversaturated, but still rather true to life. The camera does take a few seconds to adjust to the best exposure setting when moving between different lighting conditions though, which can get a little annoying at times. Talking of lighting conditions, capturing video under low light is a no-go, but most action cameras suffer from the same issue due to the small sensors packed into a tight physical frame. Video is full of artifacts and isn't as smooth as I would expect. Still images are captured at 14 megapixels and details are maintained along with colours that are reasonably true to life. No major issues there, although they are certainly comparable to most modern smartphones nowadays, so you'll have better luck with your handset in this regard. The camera also incorporates time-lapse video, which is a new feature to Eken cameras, and it seems to work as it should, capturing a time-lapse and automatically stitching it together to create a video time-lapse for you. Settings are limited, and due to the battery life you'll need an external power source for longer projects, but otherwise it's a mode you'd expect in any good camera nowadays and it works as it should. Sticking with battery life, I achieved around 45 minutes recording at the highest resolution settings, and then it's a 3-hour wait for a full charge. Not brilliant, although thankfully the battery is replaceable, so you may wish to carry a couple of spare if you'll be away from a power source for the day. So, all in all, video quality was acceptable for a camera in this price range, certainly comparable to most modern smartphones. Colours lacked slightly, but resolution was good and image stabilization worked as it should, even though you can't turn it off when the need arises. Bundled in a great package with a range of accessories, the Eken V8s is a nice little camera with pretty average battery life, considering it carries a dual screen display. The hardware feels robust and the specs made this out to be a great overall budget camera, and don't get me wrong, it works as intended. The 4K resolution is good along with the stabilization, although it's lacking in customizability and settings somewhat, which are non-existent if used remotely. Considering you can pick up the Eken V8s for around $120, for those looking to create professional looking video projects it probably won't live up to your expectations. But for those who are new to action cameras, or for the younger generation who want something easy to use for social media projects, it's a pretty good buy.